How did you arrive at saying at the end of the year, I'm going to retire? And we can get into whether that's going to hold true or not. But, what goes through your mind when you're a sponsored player, there's people that like to see you, there's a lot on your shoulders, and you're like, you know what, I need to walk away for a second.
Well, the first things first. I started working at NVIDIA in November, I believe it was, and basically I had no time to play. I didn't know how to juggle my gaming with my work, etc. And I felt like I was gonna fall down. Um, and of course, after Capcom Cup, my results were showing that I was like diminishing as a player, etc. And so I talked to my mom, I talked to my girlfriend, and I told them I think it's time to retire. It's that time. I cannot play anymore. I can't find the time to play. So after Canada Cup's Master Series, I decided to just say it, to take it out, you know, and yeah, that's where that tweet came from. And
And you talk about that was not an easy decision to arrive at.
no,
Well,
it was really hard.
well, I mean, tell me a little bit more about that because, yeah, I mean, you've been sponsored by EG. How many guys would love to be sponsored by EG? You're getting to travel the world. You're getting to face guys that the rest of us just get to see on stream or get to maybe play against in pools. What did you think you would be losing?
Um, I will be losing everything basically. I mean, if I retire, I'll lose my sponsorship, I lose my gaming drive, my everything basically. I'm not. What can I say?
Hmm.
Um, but I did put my mind into it. I thought it was the end. I would still play, of course, but not as a pro player, enjoying the games. But yeah, of course, as you know now, that changed.
So tell us, you're not gonna do that.
Yeah. Well, after getting bodied back and forth in like 3 tournaments, I just started getting upset and more upset. And of course, a retired player is not supposed to get upset. I'm supposed to be happy, and I was taking it like that at the first tournament. I was like, yeah, well, I don't play anymore, so whatever. But at NCR, um, I had a really, really good chance to actually, win. But Smug got added to my pool randomly, like the last day, and I got bodied by him. The really bad. I think it was like 4 rounds in a row, really easy. But I was like, okay, whatever. I guess it's fine. Blah blah blah. But you could tell that I was getting a little bit more upset. And then the next day, I qualified and I lost to Bonchan, and it was not very close, but I could have probably beaten him. So after that, I stood looking at my stick, and sorry for the bad word, I said, "What the fuck am I doing?" You
Yeah.
know. And from that point on, I said, "I'm done. I need to start practicing it. I cannot handle losing like this." And that's when I started getting back into it and started practicing. I told my friends, "Yo, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna retire. Let's start practicing again, etc." And that's how I came back.
Now, the EG side of it, how does that work if you tell these guys, hey, I'm going to take a break, or hey, this isn't working out? Can you walk us through that side of it that maybe some of us aren't familiar with?
Well, my manager AJ, he's always up for like, don't play so much, like don't, not like that. Just play, but don't exhaust yourself. You don't have to go to every single tournament. You don't have to play every single where that you play, etc. You have to take a break sometimes. It's just how the mind works. You have to let the mind rest, and that's how it is. Aside from that, my friends have always been supportive. My EG teammates have always been supportive. Even Choco and Momochi, I can't really talk to them very much, but when I went to Japan recently, they were like, "Are you retiring?" And I said no, and they started like, "Yay!" I was like so so happy, because in America it's like, "Oh shit, good stuff," yeah, But they were just like, "Yay!" And you could tell like they were really happy. I was like, "Well, okay." I was really, really, really happy, and then they took me to the arcade, and we played, etc., etc. And from that point on, I started keep playing all the time.
You mentioned going to an arcade, and then in Japan, even more cred, right? Like street cred. Where's your favorite place to play? In a tournament, high stakes, Evo on stream, or with friends at an arcade like that?
Well, my favorite place to play has to be Evo Final Day.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. I'm not gonna lie. When you go up the stairs to that stage and then look at the sea of people, it's crazy. It gives you a rush, the adrenaline starts to come up and all that stuff, and all you want to do is show them that you're the best, right? So I think that's for now the best place that I could think of, followed really closely by Capcom Cup. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
If I will tell you that Capcom Cup was one of the places that I actually got nervous, and I usually don't get nervous, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for some reason, I remember I went up the stairs to Capcom Cup, and for some reason, I thought I was like about to sing or something. I was like, oh my god, and yeah.
So
followed really closely.
If PR Balrog on American Idol, I'm willing to bet you'd sing Celia Cruz, La vida es un carnaval. I saw you posting that. Azúcar, even better. So, speaking of Capcom Cup, I was looking at the results. Your first match was against Ricky. How do you feel when you have to face one of your EG brothers or sisters?
Usually, it's always 50-50. I feel like we can all beat each other. Since we actually practice a little bit with each other, it can always go back to back. Before that, I beat Ricky in a tournament pretty easy, and then at Capcom Cup, he actually beat me pretty easy in Capcom Cup. So, it's just how we come with the mindset at that time.
Mm-hmm. Going back to, you mentioned that you don't have as much time as you'd like. That was one of your concerns, one of the reasons why you were motivated to consider retiring. But we were talking earlier, and you said that you had to develop that skill of very efficient practice. If you don't have time, what am I going to do with the time I have? Can you explain that to us?
Well, basically, before I started working, all I did was grinding, study, see my brackets a little bit, who am I going to fight against? I will study against them, blah, blah, blah. But now I don't have the time to do that. I can't grind the game for like 8 to 10 hours. I can't really study very much. So basically what I do now, since I work for like 10 to 10 hours a day, I basically try and see what am I doing wrong, what's going on, am I being too aggressive, am I being too defensive, what's going on with my anti-airs, etc., things like that, and try to polish my offense instead of my defense, because I know my defense is not the best. I am decent at it, but my offense is what gets me into the momentum. Mm-hmm. And it gives me the wins all the time. I haven't seen myself being like super patient and then winning. So yeah, polishing whatever works and trying to diminish whatever doesn't work.
So you were also telling me that being good is one thing. Being consistent is a completely different thing.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, being good, everybody can be good, there can be one-hit wonders, but they can still be good. Being consistent, let's say getting top 8 or getting top 3 multiple times steadily, then that means that you're really consistent. You are really, really good, and you basically can take a tournament. Just a one-hit wonder, to me, is not a really something that I would care about. Mm-hmm. This guy, let's say he won a tournament once, okay, great. Applause, that's it. That doesn't mean that you're like considered like really, really good. Mm-hmm. Being consistent to me is more important than being just good.
We wanted to get into a little bit your recent performance at CEO. We have a couple of clips here, and I'm going to toss it over to Ray because he had some questions for you. I'm going to play a clip right now that is you facing Mago, and I'll let Ray take over from here.
All right, so here we have you, you got the knockdown, and then you get the full combo, the focus dash combo, which is really nice, may I say, by the way, really hard to do. Mm-hmm. So just walk us, how did you set up for that very end where you shimmied back just a little bit in order to bait him to like go for the grab or go for something? Like what is your mindset at this point in the time, like after that initial sweep?
Well, My main focus is always if Balrog lands a combo,
Uh-huh.
since he has really high stun, like he hits so hard that he stuns the opponent really fast. I try to do the biggest combo, right?
Yeah.
So I got the knockdown, and the first thing that I know is that Japanese players are usually really, really good at pressing the button when they're on wake up, right?
Yeah.
No, they're really amazing, right? So what I thought was, okay, he only has two options here. I don't think he's gonna backdash. That was just a read. I know Mago because I play him a lot. He either techs or he either dragon punches. And after the sweep, if you saw, he dragon punched. So that tells me, okay, big combo, get him to the corner, easy pressure, right? I get him to the corner, and in this match against the Twins, you can't actually frame trap them very well with let's say close standing roundhouse or close standing medium punch, because their crushing low kick goes under everything, right?
Yeah.
So the best thing that I can do is either throw or go back and shimmy with crushing low short. Right?
Okay.
So, like I said, Mago will either do dragon punch or crushing low kick to tech.
And he did both of those, obviously.
Yeah. So if you see through the whole match, if you guys see it, etc., it's how it is all the time, and until Mago starts backdashing.
Do you have your little phone where you bring out your notes, or is that all up here? Download already?
I used to have it on notes, right? But now I have it up here. I don't think I need notes anymore.
I'm gonna play a clip now. This is you versus 801 Strider, and you start the round with the turnaround punch.
I like to be super sneaky, so sometimes I would start the match with a rush punch, and if I see that the person will either counter it, I try to change it a little bit. If you change the timing with the turn punch, with the rush punch, then the thing that they do to counter the rush punch, the turn punch will hit. As you can see, the rush punch loses to focus, so I did turn punch.
All right.
And that was his death, basically.
So when you see counter hit turnaround punch lands, what changes in your gameplay at that point to adjust to that?
Well, basically, if I hit the counter hit, they're basically dead. Because Abel is like, it has a fat hitbox, right? So if I land a counter hit on him, he's pretty much stunned and it's over. I think that actually that round ended in like 12 seconds or something.
It was really fast.
Yeah, so if you hit a counter hit with Balrog, you're pretty much dead, in my opinion.
All right, so I got another quick question then. You mentioned that versus the Japanese players, they tend to wake up with a button to counter you, you know, kind of waiting for the DP. And a lot of scrubs, obviously, you'll bait the DPs. But if you come up against, say, like a mid-level player you've heard of before in a tournament, you're not sure whether they're going to wake up DP, whether they're going to wake up with low forward. What is your process for learning their tendencies?
Well, basically, if I don't have data on the player, data as in like what we were talking about, the notes, etc. If I don't have a data with the player, I tend to be a little bit more defensive, just to study him. You know, usually, let's say at Evo, you know, there's so many players, you don't have data on all of them because that's impossible, right? So let's say I go against Joni Donut, right, and you know he starts mashing Dragon Punch at the start. I knock him down and he doesn't do anything. What does this tell me? Okay, then I can rush him down. That he's scared of doing it. But if he starts doing it, I just back out. That's it. There's no game plan. It's actually pretty easy in my opinion, playing against like an average player.
All right, and then one more follow-up to that is there was kind of a famous moment, I think it was during Capcom Cup when you beat Daigo, when you red-focused his wake-up, knowing that he was going to low forward into Fireball. When do you think, like a lot of people are scared to make those reads. What is it that can teach players to really make the reads that are in their head to man up and do it?
Well, if you're scared, that means that you should not be playing the game, in my opinion. You should never be scared of doing something that can grant you the win. In that opinion, and that actual move that I did, he couldn't have killed me with anything, I think. Probably he could have ultra, but the ultra would have missed. I mean, it was a really, really calculated risk, in my opinion. As you can see, I did not ref focus really close to him. I focused a little bit further. So if he did anything that could break my focus, then I could just backdash. So honestly, if you are a player, you need to study those kind of risks. And that's when you know if you can take them or not. I had a lot of health, and that's what made me do it. I said, okay, this is the chance. I did it. Boom, I beat him. That's it. Good game.
So, Eduardo, I mean, Evo's coming up here pretty soon. Based on your CEO performance, how do you feel?
I feel really confident. I'm not gonna lie. I feel that the break that I took actually helped me. I don't play too reckless or too defensive. I'm right in the middle where a Balrog player should be. My brackets are not that easy. I have my teammate Momochi really close to me, and I have Evo champion Cien really close to me too. So it should be fun. I think I have a Japanese player if I get out of my pool also. So we'll see. I do have big expectations. I mean, if I lose, well, it happened. But I will be a little bit upset on myself because I feel like I really have a high expectation.
As you should. You won't. I mean, you had said if I beat Momochi and Xian, I'm in top 8.
Yes, I think so. If I beat both of them, if I have to beat both of them, etc., I think that I would have a really, really strong chance to actually win the whole tournament.
You also mentioned to me that it's not enough to qualify by points. You want to qualify for the Capcom Cup by winning a major. I mean, how nice would it be if that was Evo, right?
Yeah, I mean, that would be probably my dream come true because every fighting game player's dream is to win Evo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So winning Evo and qualifying would be amazing. It would be like a super plus, you know?
You mentioned you want to kill dreams, right?
Yes. That's only a Marvel. It's only
Oh, right. We'll get to that in a second. But, or you know what? Let's talk about that now, man, because that's a topic that I love to watch Marvel. Even though it's old and you know what's going to happen, and these are a lot of like waiting to see one guy finish his combo, I still love watching Marvel. Where do you stand on the whole Marvel thing? You said, I think you were a little salty that you don't have a bounty on your head. I guess you're not a god anymore, you said.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about the game and, its lifespan?
Like I said, I mean, apparently I'm not a god anymore, you know? So I feel that the game, to me, is just boring already. I only like watching Chris G game body, I'm not gonna lie, because he's so strong, right? And I really like when they break his turtle shell. So I do like that. Now I don't have anything against him. He's really close friend of mine, but I do like when he gets bodied. I also like seeing Champ getting his freaking Phoenix dying and all that stuff. I like that too.
So you only enjoy Marvel in the capacity of your friends doing poorly and getting destroyed.
Yeah.
Okay.
My last one is I like Justin when he actually gets, like, someone comes back on him. Yeah.
You like the anti-Wong factor?
Yeah.
Man.
I think it's actually really funny because the game just makes you like, oh my god, slap your face. You know? So I think it's really funny, but I do support them. I think they're the best. Of course, those 3 players are way too good. I think they exceed the expectation of every other player. So good luck to them. I think if I do good, I have to fight Justin. Hopefully, I beat him. Mm-hmm. You know, I beat an Evo champion, right? Yeah.
Well, speaking of your teammate Justin, you were telling me a funny story about, and this I didn't know, about how you got sponsored by EG. And this was back around 2012 after you got 3rd in I think Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition.
Yes.
I'll let you tell the story, but the fact that you described yourself as bratty and disrespectful is not that doesn't gel with the perception of you now, which is a guy that likes to laugh, a guy that's good to be around. Not to blow smoke. Don't pretend like I'm trying to get you to blow smoke.
Oh, that's fine. Don't worry.
But can you tell us a story about how you came to be sponsored by Evil Geniuses?
Well, basically, let me start for when I moved to the U.S. When I was in Puerto Rico, I could not get sponsored. I think it was basically too expensive for the sponsors, right? So Ryan, Filipino champ, decided to make a gaming house, and he basically told me, "Yo, why don't you come here? You know, you can make your dreams come true," and stuff. So I basically took a big risk. I went to California, and I didn't have no money, no nothing. I think I went there with like $5,000, which depleted in like probably like a month because California is super expensive, especially San Francisco, right? So that went by pretty fast, and I was kind of struggling. But CJ Showstopper basically helped me after that. He basically took care of my travel expenses, you know, hotel, tournament registration, all that stuff, right? So after that, I had a pretty good year. I went to Evo, I got third under his brand, and that's when like a lot of people started hitting me up. You know, a lot of teams. EG included, of course, and I think it was Complexity and Dignitas, and the other one was really irrelevant, so don't worry about it. So after that, it was just, you know, it was a piece of cake after that. That's how I gotta say it. Justin approached me. He was like, "Well, let me let let me tell you about the benefits of it if you want to be EG, etc." And that's how we started.
I know you can't talk salary, but what are some of those benefits? How did he sell you?
Don't worry about it. Nah, it's just normal stuff, you know. Like you just get to build up yourself, your image, all that stuff, because that's really important. Not being an EG or being a sponsor player is not only just being good or doing good or having good results. It's building your image, knowing how to market yourself, etc., etc.
You mean doing a Stone Cold Steve Austin intro that goes viral and gets sponsored and featured all over the internet and blows up?
Exactly. As our friend Cape Red did.
Okay. Well, we're ready to wrap it up, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on Street Fighter V, how you think that game is shaping up, what you expect to see out of that.
Well, the game is really aggressive. I love aggressive games. I think that the game is going in the right direction. I don't know how it's going to be with the new players or like Street Fighter 4 players. It's really different. It plays like an old Street Fighter, so it might be hard or it might be really good for them. I don't know yet. We don't have the game yet, etc. We'll have to wait. We'll have to wait till the beta. But the fact that it's aggressive, I love it already.
You know, they haven't announced Boxer, but Ray here, one of our analysts, seems to think that Birdie is pretty much Balrog. Do you share that sentiment?
Please stop.
No?
No, please, no. I don't even want to comment on that one. I'm kidding. No.
Confirms, man. Jab confirms.
He's
Yeah,
talking about Jab confirms over here.
Yeah, Birdie's pretty good. I mean, it's still too early to tell. He's really huge, so I don't like really big characters, so it depends. We'll see. I really want to play Karen if she's in the game.
Yeah, we'll see. There's been 4 different super believable leaked lists, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh man. Then you see a different list, but exactly, we just all gotta hurry up and wait, right?
Yeah. I really want some new characters also, so we'll see.
Well, Eduardo, thank you very much for joining us. Just because I promised I would, our friend in Dallas, TWG Arthur, would like to extend an invitation for you to come down to Absolute Battle.
Of course.
Your teammate Ricky and your boy F Champ are always there, and we like to have them. So again, thank you for joining us, and hopefully we can have you back on another time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Have a good time, guys.
All right, man. We'll see you at Evo.
Bye.
Well, you heard it here, guys. What do you think?
Yeah. Every time I look at him, I think of the time he beat me real bad at final round in top 8.
Tell us more about that. Go into
That
detail
was a
about
funny
how he
tournament.
beat you.
Right after I had kind of decided I wasn't going to play Marvel as much anymore, which was Evo, I went over to final round for Blaze Blue. I get knocked out of Blaze Blue in pools, and somehow I make my way through the Marvel bracket, beating everyone. I get up to top 8 and lose in horrible fashion to Justin Wong and PR Balrog, both just 3-0ing me with War. And And I looked back at the tournament, I was like, how did I did? The only streamed matches of me, despite making top 8, were losing to Wolverine. I made the top 8 without getting streamed anything but losing. So
I think I remember that now.
I'm
And I was like,
salty.
dude, what's going on? You were real salty. I was like, what
Permanently salty.
happened? And you were just like, Wolverine.
Oh.
Save some for me.
Save some for me. Hey, but, you're hating on Marvel now, but how many good memories do you have from that game? Let's see.
Does drinking in the hotel afterwards count?
I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things I'd like to transition into is, did you guys hear about Red Bull's Salty Suite? Here, let me play the video. This thing is out of control, man. This is the room in which the Salty Suite, brought to you by Red Bull, will be handled. Look at this thing. It has a baby grand piano.
My question is, are fighting game players allowed to be in there? Is that all right? Are we clean enough as a whole?
Speaking of that, you've been in many a Salty Suite.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, usually after-hour tournaments, basically, a lot of money matches go down. But why don't you give us your take as somebody who's actually participated in many money matches?
So, a tournament is obviously double elimination, 2 out of 3, and no one's happy at the end of it unless they've won. So the Salty Suite is typically streamed in some hotel room, gives players the opportunity to get the high-profile matches, the money matches, etc., that they might not have gotten. Because when you go to a tournament, a lot of people don't want to play casuals that are top players, or they don't have time to play everyone. But pretty much anyone will take you on if there's money to put up for grabs for it. So it's actually a really good way to get to play against top players in kind of a compact format.
Mm-hmm. Now, Salty Suite is usually in somebody's room, and everybody's texting, wait, where is it, where is it? You show up. More often than not, you get kicked out at some point of the night if it's in a hotel room. How do you feel about Red Bull coming in and sponsoring something like this?
Well, it's amazing. I mean, as you said, like noise complaints happen, etc. So the fact that there's like a real sponsored suite with amenities and room with which to play means that it'll be a grander event for those watching in the streamland, I think, which is really important for growing the scene as a whole. So it's going to be better for the players. It's going to be better for the stream. I really don't see a downside unless Red Bull spends too much money and deems it a bad thing in the future, but I think it's going to work out real well.
I've been getting the impression that, and I guess we can stop playing this footage of the, that's pretty classy right there, though. Did you see that champagne being poured into that champagne flute with white gloves? Anyway, so the most recent event that comes to mind with respects to Red Bull was the Red Bull Kumite. And what I love about Red Bull is they don't do anything half-assed, basically.
Oh, yeah.
That was a really, really fun event. And if I recall, it was 2 years in the making. They wanted to make sure they had it just right, the right event, the right players, the right everything. They had already they do a lot in esports already, but they hadn't really dipped their toe into the fighting game world. If you guys follow what Red Bull's been up to, they have the Battlegrounds where they've done StarCraft and Dota. They sponsor Call of Duty players. Big name sponsors with the clout to really create something. I mean, it's not something out of nothing. The fighting game community has been here for a while, and the tournaments have been getting bigger and bigger year over year. How do you guys feel about having some of these bigger names? I mean, it's not Coca-Cola and McDonald's, right? But
I mean, I think it's awesome, especially the way they hosted the tournament last time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, every time someone would lose, they would have a key and bring it down to open up a lock. Like,
that was brilliant.
The camera was there, everything. They had a crowd. They had the red carpet rolled out. Like, it was really nice, right?
Yeah, no, certainly. And I think Red Bull's done a really good job of kind of making these events like appealing to the people. I know they had like Flugtag. They have their crazy like man-made propeller competitions. So they're no strangers to kind of making something entertaining just past the outlet itself. Mm-hmm. So for them to bring fighting games and bring it outside the game, bring it to the players themselves, give them the spotlight, bring it to the event as a whole and bring that a spotlight, shows and gives the players the opportunity I was talking about that CEO gave them. Just be people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I thought it was really cool. That whole key thing was just brilliant, because, right, it was like everybody, when you lose, it's like a walk of shame to take your lock and go away with it, and the last person unlocked it and got I think it was a belt, right? That brings us to my favorite segment, which is you guys analyzing some plays. And since we were talking about Red Bull and Red Bull Kumite and the Red Bull Salty Suite, we are going to pull some replays from the Red Bull Kumite to talk about some Street Fighter. All right. Ray, you're up first, buddy.
All right, so everyone knows, or if you don't know, here we're gonna have Fudo playing against Nemo's Rolento. Fudo is an Evo champion a few years ago. So in this video, I just want to kind of focus closely on just how Fudo is utilizing just like things kind of everyone already knows about Fei Long, but then just some interesting new things he brings to the table for this matchup. Like here, let's see, he'll come out with a dragon kick because that's not safe, and then the standing medium punch, which is heavily positive on block, and if it hits, you can combo. If it counter hits, you're comboable as well. And then just the spacing to kind of punish the rollbacks that Rolento is doing. Now, what's interesting is that when Rolento is in the corner, he's actually he has an option to do the rollback, the Mekong, which will allow him to roll back, and then if you press another button, depending on which one you press, he'll roll a different speed coming close to you. So for Fei Long to kind of keep him in there, he needs to do that version right there, like the forward medium kick.
That little hop kick where he comes down and hits you with the heel of his
Because
foot?
if he does jab, it'll beat him out. But what if like he decided he wants to do the rollback into the hit, or if he wants to do the one where he flies up and then gets out for free? Mm-hmm. The hop kick actually delays long enough to where if he does the one that flies as well, it'll hit him out of that, instead of like having to stand and mash jab and randomly get hit, because that's like really specific timing. Mm-hmm. So great stuff to Fudo there. I think he played that match really well. But we're going to see in the next video just a little bit about what Nemo can do to bring some stuff that Fei Long hasn't seen.
Okay, I guess I'll save my question for after we see Nemo. So this is the flip side of the coin, right? This is
now we're going to the fun stuff. Yeah. So here, all right, so Rolento is a weird character. You got your knives, you got your rolls, you got your baton, which is kind of weird to have a weapon in this game. So that's interesting to see that after that EX Patriot Circle, he does the sweep for the hard knockdown because Fei Long is a character with a wake-up reversal, the dragon kick. Other characters like Ryu and Ken, they will have their uppercut. So for Rolento, you normally would end that with a standing fierce punch into a knife reset for a safe block. But if you time it wrong, or if like they decide to wait and then mash DP after, like Rolento would have lost his health, that would have been it for him. So it's really, really, really smart for Nemo to go for that sweep to knock him down, so he can set up for the pole jump after. Now, pole jumping is kind of like Rolento's really cool thing that makes everyone salty.
Really cool, really cool if you're the one using
if you're the one
Rolento.
doing it, it's really cool. So watch here how it whiffs. So then, like Fei Long, you see he's blocking, right? Because he doesn't know what's going on. But, Nemo just timed it perfectly to the point where it whiffed and he could catch him with the lows into his option selecting, or in this one, he just confirms into the EX Patriot Circle off of a combo. Mm-hmm. So,
look at that. You haven't pointed at the fact that Rolento was basically close to magic pixels here. And that's the power of Rolento. You can come back with all these shenanigans.
But to do that at this caliber, it's really tricky stuff because he's also a big character. He has a little bit of a wonky hitbox. Balrog can actually do a cross-up on him.
Wow.
In the corner. So, for him to maneuver Rolento like this, it shows how slippery, how smart, how much mastery that Nemo has over this character. And
he pretty much invented him,
Yeah, he basically is when you think of Rolento, who do you think of?
Yeah.
Nemo. Yeah.
Nemo.
So, this match, it was just fun to watch if you were there at the time. Amazing. I love Rolento.
We were having a little bit of a discussion about everybody knows Fei Long and what he can do, and Rolento's still, relatively newer, by default newer. How do you guys feel those two characters have kind of shaken out in the current state of Street Fighter?
Well, Fei Long, Mike was talking about this last time, about how Mago, should switch to Yang, to mix things up, because everyone knows that matchup. Everyone's kind of familiar with it. It's getting kind of old. People are tired of watching it. Mm-hmm. So Fudo, is Fudo like the original Fei Long?
I don't know if he's the original.
Not the original.
He's the only Evo winning one.
He's the only Evo winning one, but he's a hard character to win with because, there's not too many gimmicks. You got to play smart. You have to react. Mm-hmm. That's another thing, too, is you want to do a lot of crouching jabs to get into your Rekkas off the confirm. So, him being an old character and then, kind of using things to take out some of the options that Rolento can do, it was really interesting take on Fudo. It shows that he actually did some homework. Mm-hmm. But then, there's only so much homework. You can only do homework on things you know. And obviously, he doesn't know some of the other stuff that Nemo had hiding, such as that whiff off the pole jump. Like, I mean, what do you do when the character's just jumping around and just like rolling around everywhere? It's hard.
In that clip that you showed, it looked like he was trying to block that kick that then whiffed, and it was like
in that split second, he was just like, wait a second, I didn't block anything, and then Nemo was already on him.
What were you gonna say, Mike? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that I think Rolento's partially a good choice for Nemo as a multi-game player. I mean, he's famous in Guilty Gear for his Faust. He's famous in Marvel, obviously, for kind of reinventing that Nova team. And so Rolento allows him to kind of have those gimmicks under control so that while focusing on other games at the same time, he has tricks up his sleeve to not have to necessarily play as solidly. And that's not to take away from him as a player, but I think as a multi-game player, playing trickier characters lets you take off a little bit of the homework you might need to do. I certainly do the same thing.
We haven't had that discussion yet, and maybe before we get into your replay, we should have it now. Basically, the idea of, people get shit on for picking top tiers all the time. You're saying that if you want to be good at multiple games, you should be able to identify and exploit the best, the most exploitable things in a game?
I said this on an earlier show, but picking characters that works for you is obviously incredibly important. The tool set you have is what you have at your disposal to use, and whether you're going to use that or not kind of depends on your style as a player. However, some tools are better than others, and top-tier characters typically are the ones with those tools. So yeah, picking the best characters that happen to fit your playstyle is generally a strategy that kind of shortcuts you to winning. And I think as you see people play multiple games, you kind of see them often tend to be less so character specialists or low-tier heroes, just because it's more efficient to pick a better character. That being said, I mean, sometimes the character that fits you is lower on the tier list, so it's all about identifying that.
Is that how you feel about it?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Mike. I think, just to roll back, like Nemo, I feel like his style is like he is an on-the-move person. Like, well, actually, not even that. Like when he was playing Marvel, I feel like a lot of his things were actual things he practiced and set up. Like, he came out with the Nova, and then wasn't he the one that came out with the Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange.
He was the first one to really have the setup was known, but he was like one of the first players to make it like a consistent part of his game plan.
All right, we're moving on to your replay here. This is an entire last round of the last match, if I'm not mistaken, of the Rebel Kumite. Is that right?
Yeah.
It was the last round of this match, and it's Bonchan versus Evo Champ, Luffy.
So this is normally considered to be a pretty bad matchup for Sagat. Rose has a lot of options in a Fireball War with her Reflect. I'm pretty sure Luffy beat Bonchan at Evo, and I know he's beaten most of the Sagats he's played. So going into this, Bonchan had a lot to prove. The Fireball War between these characters is really interesting. Rose tends to, just as I said, destroy most characters in Fireball Wars due to her Reflect. However, Sagat does have a lot of options to kind of vary up what he has. He has the high and the low Fireballs, he has EX, and his speeds are pretty different. So what you see Bonchan do in this match is vary it up a lot. High Tiger Shot has less recovery and less startup, so it's better typically in the Fireball War. You see him get in and focus a lot to gain the Ultra, and you're going to see what the Ultra does for him here. After activating the Soul Satellite, the super late DP trades, and the Ultra he built through absorbing these Fireballs gets him a lot of damage and a setup into the corner. Now what you saw there was research. Now, anyone who's ever seen Luffy play knows that he backdashes a lot, including in the corner, as her backdash has relatively low recovery. By meeting a throw, you will actually recover in time to maybe not necessarily punish, but catch a mash after the backdash. So after losing to him at Evo, he obviously looked into that, threw it, and then counter-jabbed the mash afterwards. And you saw this brought him in the corner, kept him there, and then won.
Let's start that one over. How about that?
Yeah.
I think I can do that. I'm about to do it. Watch. Wait.
Oh, guys, the celebration.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to see it. Well, there's the celebration. It's about to replay here. This was the Red Bull Kumite venue, which I thought was super cool, by the way.
Where was that? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure it was in France.
Oh, okay, yeah, France. Okay, so
here we go.
As I said, just watching it, I'll probably shut up a little more as time so you can focus on the Fireballs. But
so we should be looking for focuses?
You should be looking for focuses. He tends to do it closer so he has the room to backdash without losing space.
Gotcha.
So you'll see EX Fireball trade, walk up focus. You'll see get to mid screen, focus backdash. Anything to do to push him closer to the corner while at the same time building Ultra Meter. I think the focus is start now that he's lost the meter to do EXs. So yeah, you'll see focus right there. Every time he gets the EX, he uses it to match the fireball and dash in. Everything in this matchup is about Sagat getting the corner so that Rose can't constantly backdash.
And you would say, I mean, obviously, I guess we could all take a tip from that. If you want to stop her, put her in the corner. I mean, that's like the most obvious bit of advice I think has ever been given on Street Fighter.
Yeah, I mean, you just saw Rose has a floaty jump. She has no cross-up options from the ground. So in order to get over you, she either has to knock you down or she has to jump. And obvious Sagat's anti-air is good enough to keep her there, and that's what he did. It's an interesting thing because a lot of people use their EX meter for big damage combos. They use their EX meter to directly win the fireball war. But Bonchan showed that you can use it instead just for the positioning. And that's kind of the next level of Street Fighter, is being able to not only play for the moment, but to play for the future. And you saw him totally run his game plan.
You know, one thing I never noticed, and now it seems obvious, is I used to think that if you're a fireball character, you're at a disadvantage against Rose because she has the reflect. But if you play it right and use it to absorb all your own fireballs, I guess you could really get your ultra faster that way, right?
Yeah.
How in your mind would you formulate that strategy? You know,
As the Sagat player?
yeah, why not?
Well, losing to him real bad at Evo is a start. I mean,
You lost to Bonchan?
no, I mean, but
Oh, right, yeah.
Luffy.
There you go.
Luffy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm on the same
So,
page
so
now.
as a player, I mean, obviously you have your strategies going to characters. You have your strategies versus certain people after losing to them. And while it maybe shouldn't be this way, often that's what kind of stirs you to do that. When you're coming up with strategies to beat a bad matchup, an important thing to note is what tools of yours are shut out and what tools of yours are useful. You have to kind of rebuild your character for the matchup. So with Sagat, you see, well, normal fireballs get reflected. Are they good anymore? And you think, well, yeah, I can build Ultra with them. EX fireballs, I mean, she can reflect those with EX, she can jump them, yeah, but they push her towards the corner. And so he used his long-range game to his advantage when normally it would be a disadvantage.
Okay. We're going to move on to a different game altogether. We haven't talked anime. I said we were going to talk anime. Today we're going to talk about anime, brought to you by our very own anime expert, Michael.
Please don't ever call me that.
Hollywood Donkey.
So, hey, Hollywood, what are we watching?
We're watching Persona 4 2, Ultimate Mayanaka Arena, something like that. Anyway, Persona 4, one of Arxis's 3 anime games kind of on the block right now. You got Guilty Gear, BlazBlue, Persona. Persona perhaps typically has the least entrance to those 3 games among tournaments. However, it did get the EVO spot. A lot of people have their own opinions on that, but we believe that Arxis in some way sponsored them to get the game on stage. It is a popular game for casuals, though, because the characters come from Persona and RPG.
Right.
So it works out well for the main stage for other people watching. Right now, this is the grand finals of CEO, which is Banana Ken, originally from Puerto Rico, now lives in the United States, versus Soji, one of Japan's top anime players. In anime, it's kind of been noted that Japan kicks our ass. Like, throughout time, anytime we sent a player there, they've lost in the first round, even last year with BlazBlue. Every time they've come here, whether it's 1 player or 10, they get top 1 or top 10. So Bananakin's kind of been the great hope. And he shows it here by actually winning this tournament.
But
the game in Japan is on Persona 4 2.0, but...
yeah, it's not coming to America ever.
Why? Sorry, I wouldn't expect you to know that.
No money, I don't know. So what we play on, the console version is 1.1. And that's what's going to be at EVO.
Okay.
So interesting to note is a lot of the Japanese arcade players have had to go back to console to practice for EVO because they can't practice in arcades because that's the updated version. So the serious players aren't even playing in arcades anymore, which is how they generally get their practice. The Japanese have complained about this. Americans who are kind of heels have said that's the only reason Bananakin's going to win. But they're practicing now. I know that for a fact on 1.1. So I think EVO will still be exciting to watch.
I don't entirely understand what's going on in this game. So it looks like there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on, and you have basically a killer assist.
Right. So every character kind of has an assist. You have 2 normal buttons and 2 assist buttons, generally. Shadow Labrys, Bananakin's character, is special because her assist is always on the screen.
Okay.
Her persona is this giant monster. And you have to actually manually make it block and manually make it attack in all these different directions.
Oh,
so
wow.
she's one of the most involved characters in the game. In a lot of anime games, they'll have one of these that are called puppet characters, obviously, because you're controlling your puppet like a marionette. And that's made her really hard to play. And as I've said, that's been an advantage for him because a lot of other players don't want to put in the time, and he certainly does. A big thing to note about putting in the time is that Bananakin shares almost all of his tech on YouTube. And the Japanese are coming to EVO, and they're definitely studying him. So that's kind of been a point of contention for people.
Well, how do you feel about that? Because, that's the thing. It used to be you had to be there. You had to buy the VHS. You had to, hear about it. You had to go on GameFAQs or whatever. Now you watch somebody's stream. You watch somebody's replays from a tournament. You go to their YouTube channel. Does that help or hurt?
It helps the scene, as I mentioned. Anything that makes people play better, whether it's researching people, I think is helpful for the scene. But at the same time, people want to make their money, So it's interesting to see this guy putting all his tech out there. You've heard every Mortal Kombat player say, I don't want to play my character on stream anyway because then they're going to nerf them. Or, Alex Vi used to talk about save that shit for nationals. So
Yeah.
It's kind of a new thought process to do that.
Do you aspire to have a bounty on your head? To be worthy to have a bounty on your head?
No, I don't want too many people coming after me just yet. Not until I get a little bit better. But I mean, I think it's great because one, you're creating kind of like hype for the game. You saw as CEO, people were like, "Oh, dead game," but then like you have the entrances to show in. So just adding that flair. If I mentioned K-Brad did his opening thing for Marvel, so these
That's right.
bounties, like just anything you could add just to make any kind of hype, like.
At any point, is it like, putting lipstick on a pig kind of thing?
That's
where,
how I feel about it already, honestly.
Yeah? Elaborate, Mike.
The bounties aren't a bad idea, but
Let it die?
you see him put the bounties on there, and I'm not gonna lie, I like Justin, but I feel like there was an ulterior motive there. Because
Yeah.
you see the bounties come out, and then this week you saw a Kickstarter come out to add a pop bonus for top 16. So imagine this, Justin Wong puts up $900, or I think it's $300 per player, $900
that's what it is.
to beat these three players, but now he's gonna get $10,000 to pay them out. Why? Because he's such a good guy to offer those bonuses in the first place. So why wouldn't you help a guy who loves the game so much, Ray? Why wouldn't you?
Okay, well, first of all, that Kickstarter specifically mentions that none of the money goes to him if he wins.
Okay, goes to Ryan.
Yeah.
Or
So
Chris,
so it goes to
who
Ryan.
might split it with
yeah,
him.
with my split. Okay, well, we can go there.
Maybe
but-
I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Sorry, Justin.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We won't know?
Yeah, I don't think he's doing it with bad intentions. Like that was me, kind of putting it out there.
Yeah.
Little joke, but I do think at the same time that Marvel is not going to be helped by those $300 that much. It's fun, it's cool, but I don't think that's going to be saving the community anytime soon.
All right. Well, we're running a little bit out of time here, but I definitely want to talk about, we had some more information on the Street Fighter V beta. One of the things or two of the notes that popped out to me were no stick functionality unless you have a PS4 one. Like right now in Mortal Kombat X, I can plug in it's right there, by the way, if you haven't ever seen it, my stick, and I can play, right? The other thing is that it's only online. There's no local multiplayer on that. Your thoughts on that? I mean, they have their reasons, and they could not have offered a beta at all. But how do you guys feel about those two particular things?
I mean, reading the actual list that they gave out, the statements, they're testing exactly for online play, like latency, and then with their exclusion of Cammy and Birdie, they're trying to test out, if we add DLC, well, this kind of might be a bad thing, but DLC characters, let's see how this works out. They'll come on Saturday.
Content delivery, right?
Yeah, content delivery. So they mentioned specifically what they're working on and what they're trying to achieve with this beta test. It's only the first round as well. So, seeing how things go, because I think these are things they're trying to make sure doesn't happen again, like with Ultra Street Fighter 4 for PS4, or with Street Fighter Cross Tekken, things like that. The content's already on the disc and blah, blah, blah.
That was a huge point of contention, and I'm sure that they learned their lesson on how to deal with that. The fact that there was a ton of content on the disc, that you would basically download the key to unlock it off of your own disc. Now, when you hear him explain it, it's like, guys, this is just so much easier for us to do it this way. Of course, when it's on your disc and you already paid for
You
it,
feel kind of ripped off.
you feel ripped off.
Yeah.
But what's wrong with us as consumers that, okay, but if you sell it to me separately later, I'm okay with that.
We feel like they developed it later.
Yeah. So it's all just in our heads.
To an extent, I mean, there's a picture with a burger and the patty taken out, and that talks about new DLC, whereas old DLC was the French fries and the drink. so generally, in the olden days, supposedly, they would develop the DLC content after the game came out. The team would come back together and make this, and so it felt worth it. Whereas people feel a little bit gypped when they have to pay for content developed at the same time as the game. Why didn't that cost $60? Is your game worth more than $60, etc.?
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, they've already said, right, like you're only going to buy one disc, and then every future update, which, anybody who's played Street Fighter for any amount of time knows that there's like 5 iterations of every Street Fighter title, roughly. And, they're testing for that. So I like to deal in facts, but I want us to take a little thought experiment here. Where do you think fighting games are going if they're putting this much attention to the online experience? Meaning, right now, online tournaments, they're not there yet. In Japan, maybe they're there with the internet speeds. Here in Austin, we're about to get Google Fiber. Do you think that they're planning future online tournaments, or where do you think they might be headed with their new Street Fighter V game, which they've said they're going to support? It's a big deal for them. It's important that it do well. Your thoughts?
I mean, you see what Mortal Kombat 10 tried to do with the ESL online thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think Capcom really took note of that and kind of wants to make it happen, but wants to make sure it's done right. Because I think like something like that, it blew up huge the first week and then it just died because of simple things like the netcode wasn't good. Like, so for them to, try to test it out now, I think that's the direction that they're heading with this. So we might see like a lot more online tournaments, maybe even one day online Evo. I don't know. I
mean, right now it sounds like who would participate in online Evo when you can go to the real Evo, but who knows, How many people don't get to go out to tournaments because they can't travel?
A hell of a lot, including kids, yeah. I mean, a lot of kids don't have the money to go out. A lot of people don't have the money to go out. And a lot of people, even if they go out, they're like, this was my one chance in June. I wish I had another chance in December, So more tournaments isn't going to really hurt anyone, especially if you can play it in your boxes in your room.
I mean,
is that your preferred way to play?
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking earlier a few weeks ago about how, we don't have the luxury of, traveling everywhere to meet all these players to get that experience. So we resort to online play to get that random guy with a character we've never seen before. And it's like, hey, let's play some more. I want to learn this, In Japan, you got arcades everywhere. Here, our arcade is kind of like in our room, just connected to everybody else across, the whole states. And if you want, you could, I guess, connect to Asia too, but...
Yeah, good luck.
I actually do think it might be a good thing that the beta's online only. I hope that at some point, if they continue to do betas, it'll be a little more open, a little more feature intensive. But I think in 1 week, if you give people a beta for Street Fighter V with every option, they're going to sit in training mode, they're going to learn everything they can, they're going to learn their characters, and they're not really going to go online that much. No one cares about who they can beat in the first week. So they'd rather learn about the characters, etc. This forces people to test out the functionality. This forces people to play against each other, and it forces them to get used to and then complain about the online and see what can be changed. So I think it really gives them a constant scientific method, a group for them to judge against.
Well, after Evo, we're going to have the Street Fighter V beta in here, and now that we know it's online only, we're going to have a nice little segment called Can You Beat Mike?
Shouldn't be that hard, right?
Extend the challenge, man. Let's see what you got.
I'm not a known Street Fighter 4 player, and I'm probably not that known for anything.
Marvel, maybe.
But I will money match anyone week 1 in Street Fighter 5.
Oh, my goodness. Hey, you heard it here first, guys. Well, we want to thank you for joining us for the Loadout Fighting Game Community Edition, which we do every Wednesday. If you like it, follow the channel, and be sure to check in next week when we'll have our pre-Evo show. And we'll be going to Evo too. I'll be there. We're going to be bringing a ton of content for you guys. And you can also watch this guy on stream, hopefully.
I'm serious, guys. Bring your PayPals.
All right, guys.
It's coming.
See you later.